You ever scroll through the internet and just think, why is everyone so angry all the time? It feels like we're all locked in this constant moral battle. Well, what if I told you the secret to why we fight so much today isn't really about politics, but about our deep, ancient past? We're going to dig right into that.
Okay, so first, let's just be real about the world we're living in right now. The public square, especially online, feels less like a conversation and way more like a war zone.
I mean, that's the big question, isn't it? You log on to pretty much any platform and bam, you are just hit with this tidal wave of outrage. But where's all this coming from? This isn't just random yelling. There's a pattern to it.
You see it with things like cancel culture, right? Where one person does something and this massive online mob becomes judge, jury, and executioner, with some pretty serious real-world consequences.
You see it on the streets, too, in huge political protests that bring together thousands of people who share this deep moral conviction that they have to fight for their cause.
And you definitely see it in those social media pylons. You know the ones, where thousands of complete strangers all coordinate to just condemn someone for stepping out of line. The thing is, these aren't actually separate phenomena. They are all symptoms of the same really deep human instinct. And to get it, we need to go way, way back.
So let's rewind the clock, and I don't mean a few years. I'm talking hundreds of thousands of years. Back to a time when our ancestors were facing a pretty basic problem, just trying to survive.
Now, this is a really crucial point to wrap your head around. Before we were at the top of the food chain, we were on the menu. We were small, we were pretty vulnerable, and we were constantly being hunted. Our brains literally evolved to be on high alert, always scanning for danger.
Which is a great question, right? We weren't the fastest, we weren't the strongest, we didn't have the biggest claws, so what was our evolutionary superpower? That's it. That's the whole secret. Our ability to cooperate, to form groups. That was the single greatest trick in human history. It was our shield against a very dangerous world.
But you know, living in groups wasn't a perfect fix. It created a whole new set of problems, what you could call the social dilemma. Yeah, sure, you get protection, you get to share food, but now you also have to deal with new stuff, fights within the group, competition over who gets what, and this is a big one, the free rider problem. You know, the guy who takes a share of the mammoth but didn't help with the hunt. To solve that, we needed a new piece of mental software.
And that new software? Well, that's what we now call morality. It's not just some lofty philosophical idea. It's our species' biological code for how to cooperate.
This is really the core insight here. For a second, just forget about abstract rules from old books and think of morality as a practical, evolutionary tool. It's a system that evolved for a very specific purpose: to stop people in a group from hurting each other and to get them to actually work together.
So, what does this cooperation code actually do? Well, it tries to reduce harm, it encourages people to be helpful, it enforces the rules by punishing cheaters, and it builds that sense of shared identity, that we're all in this together feeling, that holds the group together. It's basically the operating system for human society.
Now, I know this sounds like a pretty neat theory, but is there any proof? Well, funny you should ask. Let's look at a simple but totally brilliant experiment called the ultimatum game. The setup couldn't be easier. Player 1 gets $10 and has to offer some of it to Player 2. Player 2 can either accept the deal and they both get paid, or reject it and nobody gets a dime.
Now, if you're thinking logically, Player 2 should accept any offer. $1 is better than nothing, right? But that is absolutely not what happens in the real world. What's so fascinating is that all around the world, people will consistently reject offers they think are unfair. They would literally rather get $0 than let someone else get away with being selfish.
In fact, get this, more than half of all people will turn down any offer below $3. This shows so clearly that we have this built-in fairness detector, and it's so powerful it can actually override our own rational economic self-interest. We are just wired to punish unfairness even when it costs us something.
So we're all walking around with this ancient piece of hardware in our heads, a brain built to enforce fairness in small, tight-knit tribes. What happens when you plug that ancient brain into the wild, complicated modern world?
I love this analogy from the source material. Think of it like this. Moral outrage is basically our social immune system. It's that emotional alarm bell that goes off when it thinks a rule has been broken, when it detects a threat to the group. So it's not just being mad, it's a biological defense mechanism. That flash of outrage you feel when you see something online, that's your ancient social immune system kicking into gear,
identifying what it thinks is a harm, and giving you the motivation to fight it.
But here's the massive problem. This whole system was designed for small villages, where you knew everyone and you had shared experiences. In our gigantic, anonymous societies, it starts to glitch. We're trying to run village-level software on a global-level society, and the two aren't always compatible.
And then you pour the gasoline of modern technology on it. Social media acts like a giant megaphone for our ancient moral brain. It instantly creates virtual tribes out of strangers, it can spread news of a violation around the world in seconds, and it allows millions of people to coordinate punishment with just a click. It basically puts our social immune system on steroids.
Okay, so if we're all running on this same ancient, glitchy software, is there any way we can use that knowledge to maybe navigate our crazy, polarized world a little better?
So here is probably the single most important takeaway from all of this. When you find yourself arguing with someone from the other side, chances are you're not arguing with an evil person. You're arguing with someone whose moral brain has simply identified a different kind of harm. Their social immune system is firing off just as intensely as yours is. It's just aiming at a different threat that they feel they need to protect their group from.
And that really leaves us with a final and I think a really vital question to ask ourselves. Instead of just assuming the other side is malicious, what if we asked, what is the harm they see that I don't? What vulnerable group are they trying to protect? Realizing that we all share this same ancient harm-obsessed mind? Well, that just might be the first step toward actually being able to hear each other again.